Alrighty. We have entered the age of the cell phone. I actually managed to get through the first 41 years of my life without a cell phone. And the first cell phone I had was not quite as large as a VCR, but smaller than a bread box. And it was heavy, and it was extremely expensive. There were times it would be as much as $2 a minute or more to operate. And I always swore that once it became no longer necessary for me to have this with me all the time, that I would actually take it out into the desert along with my pager, dig a hole, put it in the hole, shoot it, throw some lime on it, and bury it. Unfortunately, that day never came. Life progressed, and cell phones, along with their name, instead of cellular or transmobile, got smaller, and it became critical to my work as a cab driver to have one on me at all times so that customers could contact me, and also for safety reasons. Payphones were out of the question because they were filthy, and it was funny. It was almost as though the cell phone companies would go into a phone booth and like piss on it or spit on it or vomit on it, and maybe take a booger and put it on the receiver for you, just to really gross you out. So you would go, wow, I can't use that. I guess I better buy myself a cell phone if I'm going to make a phone call away from the house. So people went out and they bought all these cell phones, and now here we are. So I realized what an issue this was when the first time I actually ever left the house without my cell phone. And I got about a block away, and I realized I had forgotten it. And I actually panicked. It was like, oh my God. And I go careening into this U-turn. I go laying rubber all the way back to the house, burst through the door, grabbed my little cell phone, and went, wow, I got a problem. It was almost as though it had this little rubber band attached to it, and as soon as that rubber band got taut, it pulled me right back. It wasn't going to be left behind. It wouldn't be ignored. And so I realized I had a problem. I actually had an addiction. And that at some point, if somebody had come to me and they said, well, you have to make a decision now between cigarettes or your cell phone, I would have popped a sweat. I wouldn't have been able to make that decision. It would have been like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So the cell phone is basically just another addiction, and I would also include into that its follow-ups such as texting, iPods, laptops, other forms of technology, microwave ovens, which I never use. I ate them. Talk about ruining food. I know people, there are issues in terms of like simple social courtesies. There are a lot of issues with the cell phone when it comes to social courtesies. People who get on a cell phone and they feel that they have to talk like really, really loud, because then everybody will know that, particularly when they first came out. But this way everybody knows they're on a cell phone. They're on a, now they like to whisper into it like they're even more important. That's another idiosyncratic behavioral issue that people seem to have. But they have this thing, the Bluetooth, and a lot of people walk around with this Bluetooth perched on their ear 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and because you never really hear it ring, you don't know when they're on it, and you don't know when they're not. And you could be having a conversation with somebody, and suddenly, it's like their eyes glaze over, and they're like, I'm sorry, what? I didn't quite hear what you were saying. In other words, they didn't hear what they were saying because you were busy talking to them. How dare you? Okay? And this is like, I don't know, seems pretty rude to me. But basically, I think that as an addiction for a lot of people who have given up smoking, or a lot of people who don't smoke and never have, whatever, the cell phone has become a replacement for cigarettes. And when people get upset, the first thing they do is they grab their cell phone and they call somebody up. And I drove a cab at night in Hollywood for a lot of years, and you would pick people up from clubs or restaurants or whatever, and they might be angry or they might be upset or whatever. And instead of like lighting up a cigarette, the first thing, or sometimes they do both, and what they would do is they would call somebody up. And it just didn't even matter to them what time it was. They get out of a club. They'd be calling somebody up 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, what's up? What you doing, man? Oh, sleeping, huh? I actually had someone in the car. They called 3 or 4 different people, and all the 3 or 4 different people were sleeping. And the thing that's funny is you got to know that at this point the non-smokers are wishing that their friend did smoke. You know, it would be like, oh, would you please light a cigarette instead of calling me? You know, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who have been recipients of these telephone calls. I think it's really funny, and it's like people want you to know that there's somebody out there that wants to talk to me. I'm an important person, and there's somebody out there that cares about it. It's like, who cares? You know what? All I really care about, you going to pay the fare? Good. Bye. And I just think it's really funny because people will do that. And it's an addiction. The cell phone is an addiction. I have gotten to the point now with my cell phone that if I actually do wind up leaving it in the house, and I leave the house, that I may not be real happy about it if I even think about it, but that I'm still going to be okay, and life is still going to go on. And yes, bad, crazy, fucked up things do happen out there in the world at large, but I'm not going to believe that every time I leave the house that I'm going to be involved in some disaster of epic proportion, and I'm not going to live that way. And the cell phone is a convenience, and you know, you can't even get an extension, at least on a house phone when you had a house. I don't even have a house phone anymore. It's taken over my house phone. But, you know, at least when you had a house phone, you could have an extension. If you wanted to get 2 people on the line at the same time, you could. Now you can't do that. You got to do like with a speakerphone or something, which I don't even have. And then, you know, you got to share it with everybody who's in the room, not just maybe one person that you would want to share with. So it's that kind of sucks. But, it is an addiction, and there are people out there who don't smoke cigarettes. There are people out there that don't do drugs, but don't take their cell phone away. Take their right arm. Burn their house. Blow up their car. Shoot their dog. Do whatever, but don't take their cell phone away. Don't take their laptop away. And you got to get to a point where you realize this is controlling you. And this is a drug, and you need to take control of it and leave it at home. Let it stay there. Let it ring all at once. Let it cry out all at once. Leave it home. It doesn't matter. You might actually, by not being on the phone, maybe you'll even meet somebody that you wouldn't otherwise have met because you're on the freaking phone. You might enjoy something because you're not going, but instead maybe you're looking out at the world at large and seeing something of beauty instead, or something really neat. Or, you know, maybe, you know, like you'll see like a bag of money sitting somewhere because you weren't busy going, Anyway, so that's my video on the cell phone addiction. I hope you enjoyed it.